Hey everybody, this is Brad from Johnson Small Engines, better known as the One Hand Mechanic. If I can do it, you can too. Today we're working on a Cub Cadet SLX50. This is an XT2. This is a machine that came in here because he was driving the machine 15-20 minutes in, it would just die. He let it sit a couple minutes and then it would run again for another 15 or 20 minutes. I have found out that through time, and if you have this issue, you can have debris in the gas tank, and it'll only happen after you're running it for a while, and if you're in high grass or if the engine's really grunting. And what I have found, I'll put a small clip in here in a picture of debris that I found in the bottom of the nipple of the gas tank that has just collected through time. You can see the nipple that's on the bottom of the fuel tank, that little on the right hand corner up top there. That's the fuel line from the gas tank coming down to what I have is a fuel shut off pair of pliers right there that goes down to my gas tank right here. I'm going to show you that the flow is very slow, and this is why the machine came in. So I'm going to uncrimp it. You can see right here. See how little that bit that's coming out? I mean, that's dribble. That should be flowing from this tank. All right, there is something that's obstructing it inside the gas tank. I'll put the pictures up on the screen so you can see what I found, but it's dirt. All right, so let me go ahead and get this tank drained so we can get on with the removal of the gas tank. Okay, so tools that we're going to need today. I have a box of 1/4-inch fuel line, pair of gloves if your guys are sensitive, if your hands are sensitive to gasoline, definitely wear some nitro gloves or some kind of protective gloves. I used this is a screwdriver, and I put a piece of paper towel on top of it with some tape so I can get inside and really clean the gas tank out. This is my clip tool remover. I'll put that in the link in the description below. This thing helps with everything. A couple different extensions. This is a 3/8 inch. This is a 1/4 inch. I think it's a 5-inch. We have a little pick. We're going to need multiple fuel line clamps. You need a 8mm socket, a 1/2-inch socket. I'm using an electric ratchet. This is a fuel shut-off tool, and then I put a piece of rubber on my vice grips, 2 pieces of fuel line just to help out. You can use tape if you don't have a nice little fuel line to put on the end. A Sharpie to mark the steering wheel, zip tie for the fuel line. This is just a pair of cutters to cut the zip tie. Needle nose pliers, regular pliers. This is a 1/4-inch ratchet if you're not using electric tools. 3/8 ratchet. I use my 1/4-inch ratchet. A couple glass containers to see the debris coming out of the gas tank. Using a little simple green to help put the fuel line on. You may need a funnel, a ton of rags. It's going to be a gasoline mess. And this right here, I don't think we're going to need it, but it's a nice little tool if you guys don't want to remove the gas tank. Basically, how it works is you just push it and it opens up a claw. And that's a really nice feature to get bugs, you name it, out of the gas tank. If I find a link for these, I'll put one in the description below. So I think that's pretty much it. Let's get to it. Take the hood off first. So to unplug the headlamps, it's a little push piece of plastic right here. You just push it down and it'll just pop off like so. And then these are nice. I don't like the fact that they don't go up. Like, I like them to go back a little bit further, but they're easy to take off. So once it's up all the way, you basically just grab it and slide it up and out. This guy here put a fuel filter here, and then he put a inline fuel shutoff here, which is fine. And then he put another fuel filter here. You don't need 2 fuel filters. They were trying to diagnose the problems, and obviously putting in 2 fuel filters is not going to correct the problem. So I'm going to have to reroute all this and make it just 1 fuel filter, and I'm going to take this inline fuel shutoff and put it over here. We just need to get the fuel line off. Now this is where those hose clamps come in. Just going to put 1 hose clamp right after the gas tank, but before the fuel filter. And then I'm going to actually take all this off right here, so I'm going to disconnect it from the fuel pump here. Don't replace, this is your fuel pump right here. Don't replace your fuel pump until you know that you have good flow going through your tank. Let's go ahead and take this fuel line off. Just use a pair of pliers to get the clamp off at the fuel pump. And then I'm going to use my clip tool remover, which is just great for pushing fuel line off. Like so. Now you're going to get a whole bunch of fuel coming out of here, so use a whole bunch of rags. I'm just going to push this off out of the way. Okay, now we're going to take the steering wheel off. can use a highlighter, get your steering wheel straight, and then use a highlighter and just put a little mark on the cowling and on the steering wheel, and that'll help you line it up when you put it back on. To get this cap off the steering wheel, normally a flathead screwdriver, a small one, just pull that up, and that will show you the bolt down inside. Should be a 1/2 inch. We're going to go ahead and use a deep socket with a 6-inch extension with my impact. Counterclockwise, brings it out. I'm going to go ahead and just pop this up, like so. Comes right off. Some are easier than others. Now inside, right here, we have 2 bolts that need to come up, and there's a plastic housing in here. I'm going to go ahead and do the outside first, and then we'll pop these off. We're just going to back this cowling out a little bit, but we have a bolt here, we have a bolt here, we have one over there and one on the other side. I'm just going to go ahead and take them out. But this is a 5-inch, 1/4 inch extension that I'm going to use to get down in here. 8mm socket. Now when you go ahead and put these back in here, that trick that I've shown you before in the past using a paper towel, that's how we're going to get them in here. And if you have a magnet to get these out, you can use a magnet. Now it's loose, and to get the tank out, you do need to take the gas cap off, and if you pull on this, it'll just pop out, and it's just held in like that. So when you put it back in, pop it in, and you're done. All right, so we take that off. Now we have to take the Z-VAP line off by just pushing that out. Be careful you don't break this nipple off, or you'll have to buy this whole part here. Just leave it off to the side right there. Now there's a plastic tab right here. We may just be able to lift up the cowling enough to get that, see that tab right there? And then we have to wiggle it all out. Sometimes I have taken off the engine cover. This is a Kawasaki, not a Kohler. And you do have to do a lot more to get this cover off, so I'm going to try attempting this without it. If you have a Kohler, it's real easy to take this cowling off, and then that'll help you probably get this out the rest of the way. The big thing is your neck for your fuel inlet. You have to come under this, like so. And that's pretty much it. Now, like I said, this thing was ugly when it came in. And as you can see right down in here, this is from sitting outside, that's mildew. And that's a whole bunch of grass, and that could have been even a nest. But every now and then, you should probably take your gas tank out and clean up in here. Because you can see, I washed the outside, and this is what doesn't get washed. So every now and then, if you have time and it's not too much of a problem getting it out, definitely clean that out. Okay, so I had this pinched off with my first fuel line clamp here. And if you do have gas in it and you want to get this out of the hole right there, which is pretty easy to do without the clamp, get your other clamp, and then you're just going to pinch that off up here. And that's if you have fuel in it. Got to make sure you clamp it tight enough that it doesn't leak on you. You're still going to have a lot of flow coming out of here when you disconnect this one. So I'm going to and just put rags down, and then just going to get my needle nose in here. Should have done this before. We're just going to pull this off like so. Now, just be careful. Like I said, a lot of fuel. Gas tank is out. And that's pretty much how you get the gas tank out. You don't have to disconnect everything up here on the dash. Because we had such a mess under here, I'm going to clean that out. And just make sure your plug is still plugged in all the way when you put it all back together again, because you still have to manipulate this up. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this all out, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we have it up on the bench, and like I said, I drained all this gas out of here. Do you see the dirt particles in there? There's quite a few. So when I was draining the fuel out of this tank, I could not get it to drain through this fuel line. What I'd normally do is I'll blow through this line to unclog it, and then I'll take all the gas out. Well, this never unclogged. I'm curious to see what is in the bottom of this. And be careful, it might splatter at you. Gonna blow a little bit of air through this. And everything seems like it's... That seems very clear. Now you can't really see inside there, but if you look inside here, I'm going to push up from the bottom and see if we can see something coming out. Okay, so I'm going to push up from the bottom. Oh, something just dropped out, I think. Something going in the tank?
Just whatever you're pushing up in there.
You see something coming up? Is it dirt?
I can't tell.
All right, I'm just wiggling it around. I can't see it. I'm trying to keep it from coming out of where my fingers are at.
Yeah, maybe some dirt.
See right next to the pointer? Hopefully you guys can see that. But there is it looks like a round piece of dirt. And that was clogging that hole. Now I'm going to turn this into my glass container. And I'm going to try to shake that in there.
Yep, look at that.
And you can see the dirt. This is only a little bit of the dirt that I get at when I drain the tank. So the particle is that round guy. See if I can show you guys this. Okay, there it is. This was stuck in the inlet. And I don't know what it is, but it's darn hard. How about that? That was really jammed up in there. And I can still see a little bit of debris right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'll put a little piece of fuel line on the bottom right here. I'll pinch it off with my clamp, and I'll get some fresh gas to put in here. Now I know 90% of the gas that came out of his gas tank was good. The reason why I'm not flushing this with water is because water and carburetors don't mix. So you don't really want to wash it with water unless you want to let it dry for a day. All right, and we don't have a day to let this thing dry. So what we need to do is flush the tank. So what I'm doing is I'm pouring some of the gas that I got from his gas tank into a container, glass container, before I put it inside this gas tank to make sure that there's no contaminants in this gas. And you only need a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of gas in there. We're going to shake it around. And you may have to do this several times to get it all out. Oh yeah, I can already start seeing. You can already start seeing it in there. Usually contaminants, everybody's going to ask the question, how does it get in there? Normally it gets in there through your gas can. So if people keep their gas cans outside and get debris in there, or if your tractor is extremely dirty and you're getting debris in there, I'm going to use the glass container that had the clean gas in it. I'm going to pour this in here now. And you can already see that debris, lots of debris. Put it, maybe put it, you can see it in there. Not sure if you guys can see that very well, but there's a lot of debris in there. That was first flush. I want to go ahead and clean this tank out real well, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I got it clean except for a couple spots down in there, and I'm not sure if you can see that or not. But if you take a long tool and a clean paper towel, and make sure that paper towel will not come off. I use a little bit of duct tape, and then you're just going to put it down in here. And you probably won't be able to see me do this, but I'm just going to wipe it's really clean right now. I'm gonna wipe the debris out. Pretty clean there. I'm gonna go ahead and shake this up. There's no gas in it right now. Little teeny drops here and there. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off the bottom. Now the fuel line I'm using, I've been using forever, and this is 1/4 inch inside diameter fuel line, made in the USA. It says it right on here, 1/4 inch, 6.35 millimeters inside diameter. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the bottom. I know this is a fresh piece of fuel line. We have no more debris in the tank. And depending on the hose clamps, they may or may not fit the original fuel line, depending on the fuel line that you get. I'm gonna try using the other. Should have put this on first, but. Okay, that fits nice and snug. And I'm leaving it long. I'm gonna put a 1/4 inch bolt in this to keep the debris out while I'm working with the tank. I'm gonna go ahead and take the tank back. Okay, so this opening right here is where the fuel line goes. Put it in there. And it's going to run through the other side. Now, depending on the motor that you have on here, depends on which side the fuel line is going to go on. So just make sure you put it back the way it came. I'm going to go ahead and tilt this in. And I'm going to try to put the neck in first with the gas, so we can get the gas cap on. And then we have this little tab up here that's got to go underneath the dash. Now I have this sticking out right here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the gas cap on so I don't get debris in there while we're working on it. I want to go around to the other side and double check to make sure our ignition wire is on. Just gonna put my hand up in here and then I'm pushing up just to making sure the ignition wire doesn't pop off. I've had that happen once before. And it's just from, you're pulling this cowling out of the way. Now the tab right up here, that has to go underneath, right there. There's a little slot for it. And then everything should just kind of settle in. Push it in like so, settles in. Okay, so this plastic piece here, okay, I didn't have to take it out, but you have to make sure you align the bolts, the bolt holes down there, and we're going to put them back in first. Like I showed you previously, a paper towel, push the socket, push the bolt into the socket. Make sure you do this where it's not going to get lost. Doesn't fall out. Make sure you're lined up down below with the holes. And you're just going to start it. You're not going to tighten it up yet. One more. Make sure it doesn't fall out away from where you're putting it. All right, that's started. Now we're going to go down below here. Make sure the holes are lined up. I always start them by hand first. Okay, so the tank comes out right here, and you can't have a 90-degree bend or you'll shut off the fuel flow. So the fuel line has to curve. And you do have a couple things in the way. We have the steering column here, and we have wiring harness. So I'm just going to leave it long, let it curve down, then I'm going to bring it up to this right here. We're going to zip tie that right there. And then it has to come over into the fuel line. This is just a Kawasaki thing. They just have the fuel pump here, so you do have to manipulate the fuel line a little bit around that bend, which it'll be fine. So we're going to cut it. You want to leave it a little bit long so you can kind of move it around. So I'm going to cut it right about here. All right, that'll give us, always leave some room for air. And so we're going to manipulate that around like this. That's got to go right in here like this. But before I do that, I want to make sure that this is flowing really fast compared to what I showed you on that previous video, what I found. So I'm just going to let this hang down right here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put in fresh right out of the gas pump. All right, there should be plenty to run it. Make sure your clamp's on there. Put the gas cap on. Now I'm going to see how it flows, and I'll probably put another video of how it was flowing before, and I'll put that up right now so you can see that. Here. See how little that bit is coming out? I mean, that's dribble. That should be flowing from this tank. Okay, so let's see how it flows now. Oh, look at that. That's the way it's supposed to flow. 100% difference. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take all this fuel line off here. Sometimes these clamps here, you can just twist them around like that to get to them. Okay, so we have to make this. Okay, so I just want to show you guys, I started up here at the gas tank and we come down around. You see how it's hitting this steering column right here? So you're going to come through here, and I wound up putting the fuel shutoff here. There wasn't a whole lot of room to put everything, and I like the inline fuel shutoff. I just want to show you, and I'm going to leave the length of hose the way it is so you can come out here and use it. I'm going to use a zip tie and tie this up. But when you put your inline fuel valve on, there's an arrow that shows which way the fuel line's going. Just make sure you have this arrow facing, flowing the right direction. Same with your fuel filter. This fuel filter here has an arrow on it, right here. You can just barely see that. Just make sure it's in line. Now, I'm going to tuck this away, and I'm going to put a zip tie through the here, and I'm just going to zip tie it like that, so it's up off of everything, but everything will still flow, and nothing's caught at a 90-degree angle. It's going to come through here, through the fuel pump, put a brand new fuel line through here. I didn't want to put the fuel filter up here because this is very hot right here. You have the muffler here, exhaust. I don't want to put a fuel filter in line, so we put it just put the direct line, fuel line, right to the fuel pump. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disconnect this from the carburetor. We're going to turn the fuel valve on, and then I'm going to have to crank the engine just to make sure everything is flowing through the fuel pump and out this opening to the carburetor. I just want to confirm in my head that it's flowing really nicely. I have the fuel line shut off in the off position, so we should not be getting any fuel through this, and there shouldn't be any fuel anyway. I'm going to get this out of the way. We're going to put this in the container. I'm going to pull the spark plug wires and put them out of the way so there's no chance of this thing starting. And this is a twin cylinder, so there's 2 spark plugs. Tunk them up out of the way so it will not start. I just want to basically prime the system and show it's flowing. All right, I'm going to put eyes on that so we can see it pumping in there. We're going to open up the fuel valve here in line. Okay, that should let it flow. And we're not going to see it coming out until the fuel pump gets going, and it should be squirting out of there pretty nicely. And there we go, nice flow. And actually, it's not stopping, it just keeps flowing. Once it's going, it's going. So we're getting a nice flow. We're going to go ahead and turn the fuel off. It'll eventually just stop. Make sure we don't drip this down on anything that we're going to get hot. Plug that back in again, put our clamp on. Okay, clamps on. They give you this from the factory, this little loop right here. You can kind of just clip it all in there. And it's extremely tight right here where you close the hood, so I couldn't put the fuel filter anywhere but here. This is nice, it's protected over here. I'm going to go ahead and put the zip tie probably on the back side of this fuel shutoff right here, and so it doesn't crimp as a 90. We'll just let it hang like that so it's not interrupting anything. Okay, so now go ahead and just let that hang just like so, and that's not going to interrupt anything. It's not going to hang down any further than that. It's got no room for vibration. And just going to turn the fuel valve on. Now, it's good to use this fuel valve if you're not running the machine for a long period of time. Turn that fuel valve off so we don't have any pressure on the carburetor. Even though it does have a fuel pump, it shouldn't be any pressure. And then it makes it real easy to replace the fuel filter at a later date. So it's nice to have that inline fuel shut off. It was just a little bit tricky on the Kawasaki engine to get it all correct with the hood opening and closing. Make sure you plug your spark plug wires back in so you can start the machine. We're going to put the evap line back on the fuel tank right here. Now the steering wheel has splines right here. All right, these are very small splines right here. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on there. Just make sure you put that bolt on tight so it doesn't loosen up. Try to align our dot on the steering wheel with the dot on the frame. And you can also do this by sitting on the tractor and just making sure you're getting close to where it was. All right, that looks pretty good. And if you want to leave this loose, drive your tractor up and down the driveway a couple times or out in the yard to make sure it's lined up where you want it. You can move these very small increments, and if you don't get it right and you tighten it up to begin with, then you're going to have to redo it all. So leave this loose, go out and run it. I know that that's good right there. We're going to go ahead and tighten that up. 1/2-inch socket. The emblem only goes on one way. Okay, it's got 2 tabs here and a tab here, and one of these tabs is bigger than the other 2 tabs. So you can just look down your column, pretty straightforward. Hood back on. Plug your headlights back in, like so. And as you can see, what I was saying about you can't put the fuel filter here is when the hood goes down, it's so close, it literally almost hits my fingertips. So that's not a good area to put the fuel filter. So that pretty much wraps it up for how to diagnose a machine that was running for 5 or 10, 15 minutes and was shut down during cut in, I would say, high grass. It all came down to a little seed that was stuck in the bottom of the gas tank. And so we redid everything, cleaned it all out, got it all back together, and we're good to go. So we're going to take it out for a drive, and it's probably going to take a good half hour, 45 minutes to make sure. But as you can see, the fuel flow, that's pretty much repaired it. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, share my channel with your friends, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.